When and how exactly did you get into politics in Carmel?
Well, when I came back to Carmel, as far as how I got into politics, somebody asked me if I'd be interested in going on the Planning Commission. And I had, one of the things I had done in my previous life in Washington was I chaired the problem of what to do with the American embassy in Moscow that the Soviets had added the things that we didn't contract for, and turned the whole building, the whole new building, into what was essentially a big antenna. So the question was, how did we make use of this building without tearing it down? And so we had a whole community group, everybody in the intelligence community, from the National Security Agency, the FBI, and the CIA, and military intelligence, working together to figure out a solution. And just briefly, the solution was what we called the top hat solution, in the sense that we cut off the top of the building and built the 2 floors on top. It was a $200 million fix. So there was no connection between the vertical beams of the building and the top 2 floors where all the classified work was done. So anyway, I had some experience, albeit on a very large scale. So I said, okay, I'd do that. And one thing led to another, and then I ran for council, and then I ran for mayor. And there was no grand scheme of things. I never really intended. So,
was there a particular issue that kind of helped push you to run for council?
The particular issue that got me to run for council was the fact that the city was 25 years late in doing its local coastal plan, and I felt that I could, run on that, get it done, and to get it done, not just run on it and promise it and not do it. And that was what we did. I mean, I did win. It was a very close election, and I did win, and we did do the local coastal plan right away and got it adopted by the Coastal Commission.
And what pushed you to run for mayor?
What?
What pushed you to run for mayor?
Well, that's what that was the local coastal plan. What pushed me to run for mayor was the local coastal plan. I was able to direct that, and then right after that was the renovation of Sunset. Those 2 things, but the first thing was the local coastal plan, and that was what all the campaign propaganda. And the second thing that we got into was doing Sunset, and it was a wonderful teamwork with Bill and Nancy Doolittle, who were the fundraisers, and somebody like myself who'd gone to Sunset, although Bill Doolittle had also gone to Sunset. And as only could happen in a small town, his mother and my father had known each other in high school in Seattle. So it's just it is a small world. You just never know.
How many terms did you serve as mayor?
How many terms did I serve as mayor? I served 12 years, or 6 terms at 2 years each. So I figured that of the 12 years, 2 years were spent campaigning, which is an exhausting experience. And I really think that it's not good, in the sense that even if it's 1 term, the amount of time that you spend thinking about the next election when it's only 2 years. But the reason it's 2 years is that every 2 years, 2 members of council and the mayor stand for election. So it's positive in the sense that you could change dramatically the majority of the council if all those 3 people turned over. So there is a method in their madness. But having said that, I think it is difficult, and it gets a little tiresome. Same issues come up, like Flanders and other things that never go away.
What were some of the major issues or things that you were working on during your terms?
What were the major issues? Well, certainly, as we discussed, the local coastal plan, getting that passed was the first important thing, and the second was Sunset, the renovation of Sunset, which was we we got it completed on time and within budget because we were very concerned about what we call the historic presenting partners, and particularly the Bach Festival, who was kicked out of their home, so to speak, and I don't mean that quite the way it sounds, but they were in on it from the beginning. But then they were going to be performing in the ballroom at the Naval Postgraduate School, and 9/11 hit, and security was such that they couldn't go through with bringing in those kinds of groups that they had for 2 or 3 weeks. So it was there were parts of this that you didn't anticipate and could not have anticipated. And then, we opened on time, so we were very pleased that we were able to do that, even though it meant a lot of, we set up a committee that you could not change the people, so it was always the same people. There were 6 people from the city and 6 people from the fundraisers. And if you were not able to be there, you couldn't send a substitute, so that we never had people, raising issues for the first time because they hadn't been around. And it really worked very well. We set up a table here, and we picked carpets. We picked the curtain. The color of the curtain, the house curtain, is jalapeno red. And, it was, lights, everything. So anything that happens, you can be blamed for. You know who to blame. It was a handful of people. From then on, of course, there's been the ever-present Flanders problem. We've tried everything, and don't get me started on that. We've had a number of personnel changes of city administrators and so forth. So that means a change of staff sometimes as well. So it's a constant sort of redefining yourself, which is good. When the plaza was built, that was before my time, but it was that conversion from what had been a lumber yard and a movie theater to what we have today. And it was so different from what had been expanded. Then there are all the things that you read about periodically, as signage, traffic, parking, and those never seem to go away. And when you're only 1.1 miles square, you don't have a lot of options of what you can do. But they did. Not only did they get the property with Flanders, but then the Doolittles gave 17 acres, so you end up with almost 32 acres of a park right in the middle of the city, which is great. And you have a lot of VIP visits. President Eisenhower came, and there is a plaque to his name on the pew in which they sat briefly at the Presbyterian Church, and then the Pope came, and you have all those visits planned. The VIP, and it goes along with it. It's quite amazing. So.
Of all of the things that you worked on for the city, is there a particular project or something that you're most proud of, that you feel is the most important thing you worked on?
Well, I mean, it was all getting teamwork to do things. I mean, there were several things, learning to work with the Coastal Commission and doing the coastal plan, because that made, we were in charge of our destiny for the first time, and not the Coastal Commission. And Sunset is certainly one of the things that we're so proud of, because having spent so many years there as a student and so forth, and I just think it's sort of the crown jewel of the. I'm prejudiced by the community, but there's so much that has happened, and that's our mother was very instrumental in getting the Carmel Foundation going in the early 50s, and so it's sort of, my father was a district governor of Rotary. The family has been very involved in the community, so I look at it as a team that we've been involved in. Sarah's been doing things like the Big Sur Land Trust and the Ventana Wildlife Society of the Condors. She's been involved in any number of things. She was on the board of the Carmel Foundation as well. So it's, we've just got a long history of of being involved with the city in one way or another. And I think all of that is just, you know, we've benefited individually so much from it because it's been such a wonderful experience for the most part. There are things that obviously are negatives, but you have to rise above them.